Okay, it's close enough to 7. We're going to open the meeting. This is Wednesday, August 30th, 2017. We're opening the meeting at 7 o'clock. Meeting of the Harwich Zoning Board of Appeals here at the Griffin Meeting Room at Harwich Town Hall, 732 Main Street. We will hear the cases that will be read individually by our clerk. And any member of the public having an interest in these applications will be allowed an opportunity to comment at the appropriate time. And, all right, good. I will now ask our members to introduce themselves. Kath, why don't you slide that mic over there between you and Jim?
That's good.
Thanks.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Hilliard.
Kathleen Muller.
Dean Hestead.
Dave Ryer.
John Burke.
Joe Campbell.
Al Donahue.
And Sheila Delaney, secretary.
I will ask our clerk, Mr. Burke, to read our first case, please.
First case is a continued matter from the last meeting, case number 2017-19, the petition of Clifford and John DeLuz and Margaret Weigland, relative to relief they are seeking concerning property off JZ Drive, assessors map miscellaneous, parcel 405-4001 in the RR zoning district. And I believe we have a request for a further continuance.
Yes.
Until
You're on 9/27?
9/27. Okay, I will entertain a motion on this case, please.
I move that we grant this case an extension until the October meeting.
September 27,
No,
right? September 27.
September 27th.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, continuance granted.
Next case is case 2017-20. This is a rehearing of the petition of Thomas M. Kelly and Catherine A. Kelly through their agent, Attorney William Kroll. They have applied for a special permit, or in the alternative, a variance to construct a sunroom addition and deck onto their pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling. The application is pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich, Section 325. 54A2 is set forth in MGL Chapter 40A, Sections 6 and 10. The property is located at 2 Trout Brook Road, assessors map 26, parcel C1-13 in the RM zoning district.
Council has asked that we have the same members vote, or have the members voting that attended the meeting where this case was first heard. And if our secretary could remind me who that was, please.
Ms. Muller, Mr. Hedersted, Mr. Burke, Mr. Donahue, and as Mr. Previn is no longer with us, it'll be you, because you've heard the case.
Okay, Attorney Kroll.
That's
So it'll be
fine.
Ms. Muller, Mr. Hedersted, me, Mr. Burke, and Mr. Donahue.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. So we had the dress rehearsal last month for these three. So my intention is to be brief unless you want me to be otherwise. Mr. Kelly has returned with me and is seated beside me, and this is a petition to construct a sunroom family room addition and add to the existing deck as shown on the certified plot plan. A month ago, this board heard this case and voted 5-0 in favor of granting a special permit. The proposed addition, as shown on the plot plan, would be an intensification of an existing non-conforming setback. The existing house is 20.4. The proposed addition would be 20 feet. And the existing deck on the north side of the dwelling will be expanded a little bit to the north. So under the Gale case, the expansion of the proposed addition would be an intensification of a pre-existing nonconformity, and our argument would be that, is that it would not constitute a substantial detriment to the neighborhood. We'd request the board grant a special permit this evening for that. Thank you.
Ms. Muller, any comments, questions?
No.
Mr. Hedersted?
No questions.
I only have one, Attorney Kroll. Has anything changed since the last hearing on the plans?
I think I wore the same suit coat tonight, too, so no.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Burke? Mr. Donahue?
No questions.
Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak either for or against this petition? Hearing no one, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Wait, what was the first?
Dean.
Mr. Hedersted and then Mr. Burke seconded. I'll entertain a motion on the case, please.
Were
Nope.
there any conditions attached to the last approval?
There was to be no construction from June 30th through Labor Day 2017 and 18.
2018, yeah,
I just
okay.
want to repeat the same.
I think at that time we were discussing it only as exterior work, and later that evening we broadened that in some other cases to include interior work that included a lot of electricians' vans, do you remember?
No.
We voted to include landscape.
Landscape.
Landscaping.
Landscape
New
construction, but not,
landscaping, I think, yeah,
not mowing the lawn. Right.
right.
So,
Okay, with those clarifications, thanks, Mr. Burke. I'll entertain a motion on the case, please.
I'll move approval of a special permit and Section 6 finding on the matter, finding that the proposal does not is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than there is now, and that we have the authority to grant it, and that it be granted with the same conditions that were incorporated in the last decision.
Which would be no exterior construction from June 30 to Labor Day 2017 and 2018, and no new landscaping. But lawn mowing and normal maintenance outside are permitted, normal landscaping maintenance. Could we have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I had a note about a height calculation, no relief granted from building height restriction, but then it said it looks okay, less than 30 feet.
Yes.
It will be less than 30 feet, yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Special permit granted. Do you have a plan you want me to stamp with today's date on it?
I do.
Okay.
Nothing's changed on this one, so that
Right,
I
but we ought to
previously
stamp it.
submitted. Right.
As of today, I think.
Restamp it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, okay. We'll just stamp it again.
They're all the same.
I wonder if we should date these when we stamp them.
Those are all the same plan.
What's that?
They're all the same plan.
Oh,
I just had
I see what you're saying.
Initials and dated.
Yeah, we don't really, don't,
And stamp.
It'll be part of the decision with the group.
okay, it's, okay. Mr. Burke, if you
Next
could read
case.
our next case, please.
Next case, also a rehearing matter of case 2017-21. Roger Keene, executor of the state of Gwendolyn A. Keene, through his agent, Attorney William Kroll, has applied for a special permit, or in the alternative, a variance to demolish and replace a single-family dwelling. The application is pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich, section 325. 54A2 is set forth in MGL Chapter 40A, section 6 and 10. The property is located at 6 Summer Lane, Assessors Map 13, Parcel Z 14-3 in the RH2 zoning district. And,
The first yellow circle.
yeah, these are the Board of Health comments?
Yes.
Yeah, that they have approved variances for the floor plans, but still needs,
That means septic certificate of compliance, something like that,
yeah, it's an abbreviation.
/ install.
Install, yeah,
We haven't put it in yet,
okay.
right?
All right.
Septic's not in yet, yeah.
That's the only comment in the record.
Okay, and I guess we will have the same people voting, Ms. Muller, Mr. Hedersted, me, Mr. Burke, and Mr. Donahue.
We just do 6 Summer Lane?
I'm sorry?
Didn't we just do 6 Summer Lane?
No, we did 2 Troutbrook.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I just mentioned, the actual septic system has not been installed yet. But the Board of Health, we've already been to the Board of Health, and we have a recorded, at the Registry of Deeds, a recorded decision of the Board of Health approving these plans and this floor layout for the new dwelling. So this is a special permit request for a demolition and rebuild. Again, it's a Gale case situation. There will be no increase in the setback from Summer Lane. We won't be any closer on that side. We will be closer to the lot lines on the southerly and westerly sides. As I stated at the previous hearing, the sideline setback will decrease from 14.1 to 11.2 on the southerly side, and the rear setback, the back of the house away from Summer Lane, will decrease from 14.2 to 9.0. But those are both pre-existing non-conforming setbacks. We're intensifying them under the Gale case, and our argument is that that would not constitute a substantial detriment to the neighborhood to construct the new single-family dwelling with 2 bedrooms. And we'd ask that you grant the special permit tonight. Thank you.
I have one other note, which,
Yes, I've seen it.
both this and the next case.
A letter from Daniel and Marilyn Elliott McDonald, stating in both these cases, they have no issues with either case as long as no construction is conducted during the densely populated months of June, July, or August of any year.
I would ask in the board's considerations that we abide by the previous restriction in all 3 of these cases, which began June 30th. Thank you.
Okay, I apologize last time, even though we've only got 5 voting, the other members are entitled to make comments, so we'll start with Mr. Hilliard. Ms. Muller?
No.
No.
The only question, same as the last one, any changes from the last time you were here? No. Mr. Burke?
And the conditions last time were
And-
just the seasonal construction,
Exactly.
as I recall. Yeah. All right, I have no questions.
No
Mr. Campbell?
questions.
Mr. Donahue? No. Anyone in the public wish to comment either for or against on this petition? I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So move. Second.
Hearing's closed. Any discussion on the board? No? I'll entertain a motion on the case.
I move that the board hereby approves a special permit to demolish and replace a single-family dwelling. The application is pursuant to the Town of Harwich 325-54A2 is set forth in MGL 40A, Chapter 6. The property is located at 6 Summer Lane, map 13, partial Z14-3, in the RH2 zoning district, with the expressed statement that no external work or landscaping will be done between the period of 30 June through 1 September 2017 or 2018. This hearing is, a special permit is approved in accordance with the Gale case, and it's not any more detriment to the neighborhood than it already exists.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Muller? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Special permit granted.
Thanks.
Okay, case number 2017-22, also a rehearing. Heather Schwartz and Jeffrey Schwartz, through their agent, Attorney William Kroll, have applied for a special permit, or in the alternative, a variance, to construct an addition, including second-floor habitable space, to their pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling. The application is pursuant to the code of the Town of Harwich, Section 325, Section 54, A2, as set forth in MGL Chapter 48A, Section 6 and 10. Property is located at 12 Setauket Road in the RH1 zoning district. And there's no comments,
That one,
just said no issue on it.
there was the one letter included,
The same one as
yeah,
this.
exactly.
Oh, yeah, that's right, sorry.
Okay, and to accommodate council, we'll have the same people, Ms. Muller, Mr. Hedersted, me, Mr. Burke, and Mr. Donahue voting on this case. Attorney Kroll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is a change on this, relatively minor, and it's, we're still going to be 25 feet back from Setauket Road, and we had, and I have plans to show you, we had a covered porch on the previous dwelling, and the homeowners, and this is Heather Schwartz seated beside me, her husband Jeff was at the previous hearing, and they've decided not to have the covered porch. So they, the builder, Dale Nicola, who's here, seated in the front row from Encore Construction, met with Ray Chesley, the building commissioner, and Ray said to submit the revised plans to you this evening so that the ones you stamp are the ones that he's actually going to approve for the building permit, which made sense to me. So I have a few of the plans if you want to take a look at them.
Sure.
You can see Mr. Campbell back.
To be back.
All right, this one will...
See, there's no covered porch.
Thank you, sir.
You'll have to refresh our memory as to where it was going to be.
I will. On the Setauket Road side.
Oh, it's gonna be in the front there,
I
like
believe
a
that's
farmer's
what I
porch?
recall.
Okay, proposed deck with roof. That's now gone?
No,
No.
I'll wait
porch up
till
here.
in front of the microphone if I can.
All right, well, we'll stamp this.
there was a porch here. Last month.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't get this, okay. So it's moved, okay.
Well, actually, decrease.
So this is the plan from last month, and it shows a proposed covered porch on the Setauket Road side. And that porch was going to be 25.3 feet, 25.2 feet from Setauket Road, so it's more than the 25 feet. So we weren't asking for any relief for that porch. So Ray Chesley, the building commissioner, and Mr. Nicola thought that it made sense to submit a revised plan to you this evening that shows that that's gone now. And there's just the stoop coming out from the house, and then there's going to be the proposed deck with roof in that little indentation on the Setauket Road side, but everything's more than 25 feet from the road. The relief that we were seeking, that we are seeking, is for on the easterly side, to the right on the plan, it shows proposed second-floor habitable space addition. And when you look at the front of the plans here, the first page of the plans, the colored plans, the top right-hand picture shows you the dormer that will have the habitable space, and there'll be additional habitable space on the second floor, so that the existing dwelling is 14.8 feet from the easterly sideline. It's going to remain that way, but it's going to have some habitable space within the 20-foot setback. Therefore, we're here for a special permit for that relief. And under the Gale case, we're intensifying an existing nonconformity by increasing habitable space in the setback area. And our argument is that that would not constitute a substantial detriment to the neighborhood if a special permit is granted pursuant to the plans that you have in front of you that I just handed out. Thank you.
Okay, comments, Mr. Hilliard,
No comments.
Ms. Muller,
No questions?
I have no
Hedersted,
questions.
I have none. Mr. Burke,
None other than, did we have conditions on this one last time, other than the building time restrictions? I don't believe there's anything else.
Yes. No construction and no new landscaping. That's where the new landscaping
That's where
came
it
in on
came
the
in.
third one.
Right, we got that.
yeah, we like that now, though. Mr. Campbell,
No problem.
Mr. Donahue,
No questions.
is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on this case for or against? And we'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So move.
Seconded.
Any further discussion by the board? I will entertain a motion on the case.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the board hereby approves under case 2017-22, a special permit to construct an addition, including second-floor habitable space to a pre-existing non-conforming family dwelling. The application was made pursuant to the Count of Harwich 325-54A2 as set forth in MGL 40A, Section 6. The property is located at 12 Satucket Road, RH1 zoning district. And in accordance with the revised Mooring Engineering Associates LLC Plan Revision 8/30/2017 and Encore Plans A1 through and including A8. And these are dated, if I can find a date.
Lower right hand.
Lower right hand, yeah, if I can get there from
There
here.
you go, 5/18.
Revision date 5/18/2017, with the express proviso that no external construction will occur, or any external landscaping will be done between the dates of 30 June through 1 September 2017 and 2018.
Just with the clarification, that would be new landscaping.
Landscape construction.
New landscaping, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
New landscaping.
Could I have a
I think last time we talked about new landscape construction.
That is what I wrote.
Right.
Landscape construction as opposed to maintenance.
New landscaping and new construction.
So if we wanted to put new hibiscuses in, we could. But if we want to do new construction of putting a patio in or landscaping around the new addition, no.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, yes and no. I mean, if you wanted to redo the whole lawn, you're gonna have a host of people out there. So I kinda like new landscaping, personally.
The issue is the amount of traffic, truck traffic that it would generate.
Well, that's the issue, I mean, it's the
And
amount
for
of
how many
traffic, I mean.
days?
I'm okay with no new landscaping instead of opening that can of worms.
Yeah, you gotta make it to.
Right. Be like trying to define kitchen.
You gotta carry on forever.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Donahue, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Special permit granted.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Give me a minute to catch up.
So, yes,
He's doing good.
Sheila,
Do you know what to do with those?
it's a pleasure after the 40B. This is like we're on cruise control.
Back to the old town.
Yeah, regular. hearing.
Yeah, this is the next one, yeah.
And then this as well.
Is that on this cover one too?
Yes.
Okay. So this is Board of Health, right? I'm assuming this is Board of Health.
Yeah.
All right, so this is,
This is historic, HCHC, Historic District and Historic Commission.
they have it on the Board.
There you go, Sheila. Thanks.
This is historic, it's on the Board of Health letter. That's not the right, that can't be the right one.
What's our new health lady?
I'm sorry, you're right, this is what, I'm thinking of, the
All right.
last one is an HDH.
Okay. Let me just see this first, okay.
It's the new health agent. Oh, she just got appointed, yes.
These kind of comments really don't do what you say. That's- You gotta meet the requirements of Title V. I'll read them.
Okay, Mr. Burke, if you could call the next case,
Next case,
please.
case 2017-24, David and Karen and Sherry Karen, through their agent, attorney Andrew Singer, have applied for a special permit to remove a one-story portion of their pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling and build a two-story addition, including a one-bay garage. The application is pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich, section 32554, set forth in MGL, chapter 40A, section 6. Property is located at 5 Glen Rock Road, assessors map 4, parcel M6-5 in the RH1 zoning district. There are a couple of matters on the record here. Board of Health has a comment, and this is from the Health Director. I've reviewed the application for a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals for the project at 5 Glen Rock Road in Harwich. The project includes an addition to the dwelling as well as a one-car garage. The application indicates the existing septic tank will be removed, and a new 1,500-gallon tank will be installed to accommodate the addition to the dwelling. The addition to the kitchen will be less than 20 feet from the existing leaching pit. A foundation plan showing the setback and elevation of the dust cover in relation to the elevation of the leaching pit is required. The setback of 10 feet must be met from a slab to the leaching pit in order to be approved by Health. This can be submitted as part of the building permit application. And that's the record.
Okay, Attorney Singer, on this case, we will have voting. Mr. Hilliard, Ms. Muller, Mr. Hedersted, Mr. Burke, and Mr. Campbell.
I prefer, why don't you include Mr. Donahue rather than me? I'd rather not vote at this meeting, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay, on any of the cases? Okay. We will,
In the event that you vote.
we will not have Mr. Campbell voting, we will have Mr. Donahue voting. I will not vote, nor will Mr. Campbell. You may proceed, Attorney Singer, please.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Andrew Singer. I'm an attorney in Dennisport, here on behalf of the applicants. With me is John O'Reilly, who is the engineer who prepared the plans. I submitted a summary of reasoning to you ahead of the meeting, and I'll be reviewing that with you. Mr. and Mrs. Karen, as you noted, live at 5 Glen Rock Road. The house is improved with a one-story single-family dwelling with a covered front porch. The property is pre-existing non-conforming as to lot area and frontage. The house itself is pre-existing non-conforming as to the front and side setbacks. Building coverage, site coverage, and building height are presently conforming. What the applicants would like to do is to remove a portion of the west side of the house and to replace it with an enlarged two-story addition. So, and the addition would have a one-car garage on the first floor, and they would be moving two of the bedrooms up above it on the second floor. In the back of the house, there is going to be a conforming kitchen and porch addition, which aren't specifically, they don't need specific special permit relief, but we wanted to point out, and you can see this on the plans, that those are being part of the application, as well as the proposed driveway. If you've been out to the site, there's a driveway that's further away. They're proposing a new driveway that would lead into the one-car garage. We are requesting a special permit under the zoning bylaw. The applicants would respectfully submit that the proposal under the legal standard you look at will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing conditions. Because single-family residential use, in part, excuse me, is a permitted use in the zoning district and will not change. The front setback of the westerly addition, though it's still gonna be non-conforming, it's going to be set almost 3 feet further back than the front of the house at the current position. So the addition will, at its closest, be 23.5 feet, still less than 25, but it is about 3 feet, as I said, further away than the existing front setback, so there will not be an intensification of that setback. On the west side setback, which is non-conforming at 14.3, it's gonna remain the same. There will be a second floor in that part of it, but it's not gonna be getting any closer to the side setback than the existing house is today. Building coverage is gonna remain conforming, site coverage is gonna remain conforming, building height is going to remain conforming. We'd submit that the proposal will be in keeping with and compatible with the neighborhood. The new driveway will improve off-street parking, and we do not believe there'll be any increase in congestion or, excuse me, in the public ways, and no decrease in traffic safety. There will be no negative impact on water supply or drainage. Addressing the health department comment that you have, we had received that ahead of time. Mr. O'Reilly has spoken with the health department, and he will be continuing to work to them through the building phase to make sure that all of the components will comply. As you can see on the plan, there is a new septic tank that's being proposed. That's actually not what health was referring to. They're referring to the foundation under the addition, the kitchen addition and the porch in the back. Those have to be set back the proper distance and make sure they are from the leach pit. And health just wants to make sure through a foundation plan that that will be done. Mr. O'Reilly will be doing that with them. The proposal we submit will not cause or contribute to any undue nuisance, hazard, or congestion, and there will be no adverse effect to the public health, safety, convenience, or general welfare of the town. After sitting through the first 3 rehearings tonight, I would comment for the record that what I'm gonna christen the Bill Kroll condition. If that is something, if you approve the project, we would also be accepting of that condition as part of the approval. For all these reasons, we would ask the board to make a finding that the proposal will not be substantially more detrimental and to grant the special permit to allow the redevelopment as shown on the plans. If you have any questions for either of us, we'd be happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Hilliard?
Thank you. On the plan which shows proposed new foundation, finished floor to match existing, that currently exists as far as its dimensions and its side yard setback?
Not completely. If you look at the plan, you'll see the dotted lines that are within that grayed out area. Excuse me, those dotted lines are the part that exists today. So in the front there is an addition.
Did you get that? I didn't get that.
And in the back, there's a little addition that's beyond those dotted lines.
Okay, my question is this. You show 14.3 feet on the side yard.
That's the same.
That currently exists?
Yes.
So that's what you're looking to extend on the special permit?
On the west side, correct.
On the west side.
Correct.
Then, on the front setback of 23.5 feet,
Yes.
okay, does that currently exist?
No, if not there, if you look at the plan, you see to the corner of the existing covered porch, it's 20.7?
Yes.
Okay, if you took the 23.5 line, you'd have to come back another few feet. Do you see the gray area back to the dotted line there? That would, maybe Mr. Riley would scale it off, but that would be the setback right to that point right now.
Here's my question is, are you creating a new setback for this structure to be 23.5 feet, or does that currently exist?
No, that part will be new, but it will be further back than the existing house, but it is new for what's there. Correct. New non-conforming, but further back than the existing house, so that's where it's falling under 32554.
What is the setback of that current garage house, whatever it is?
That part of the house.
Yes, what is the current setback, approximately?
Tell you that in just a minute.
It's about 26 feet.
So it's about 26 feet.
Today.
Okay, so you're trying to get it from 26 down to 23. The requirement is,
25.
correct, 25 feet?
That is correct. Now, if this was, as in the cases you heard earlier tonight, if this was a Gale case and we were intensifying it, that's allowable under special permit. In this particular case, also allowable under special permit, but a different aspect of it is that it's getting closer than the house is there now, but it's further back than the current house is at its closest point to the street.
Okay, but just bear with me. You currently have a setback that conforms to today's requirement of a setback from the front.
On that part of the house, correct.
So you're looking to take it from currently conforming to non-conforming to 23. Is that on a variance requirement?
We have always, since the house itself is non-conforming, as I've been before you with the bylaw in the past, as long as the addition does not get any closer, and putting aside the Gale case for a moment where you could get closer,
Yeah.
as long as it does, it's, what the bylaw says, as I've interpreted it, and I think the board has, is if you extend that, you can do that by special permit.
Right, I agree
And
with
that's what we're proposing. In this case, we're not extending it for the house itself, not that part of the house, but the house itself, we're not getting closer.
Maybe I'm missing something. It seems to me what you're doing, and please correct me if I'm misreading your plan, is that you currently have a conforming setback on this portion of the house. Is that correct? Of 26 some odd feet?
On this specific area, but
Yes.
the front setback of the house itself is pre-existing non-conforming.
No, but the front of the house where it measures 20.7 feet, I get that's non-conforming. That's been existing.
Right, and that's the line of the pre-existing encroachment for the property, correct?
But where the proposed new foundation and garage is going, currently, that's 26 feet from the front. That's set back 26 feet. Is that correct?
That part is, yes.
So you want to put something in its place and take it from 26 feet conforming to 23 feet, and you're suggesting that because the house itself is already non-conforming in the setback, that the rest of the house can be made non-conforming? Is that your...
Well, the house itself is non-conforming on that setback.
Portion
and
of the
ye-
house.
A portion, well, yes, but always it's usually a portion of the house. But yes, it's my interpretation
Okay.
that you can do that by special permit.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Ms. Mueller?
Yes, I just want to confirm that less than 50% of the current house will be removed?
Yes, we did review that to make sure that this was not a demolition situation, and that is something that we have confirmed, yes.
Okay, so we're introducing a new nonconformity on the front of this addition and then the second floor as well?
I don't characterize it as a new nonconformity in the front. I would characterize it as an extension of the existing. But then to your second part of your question, on the second floor, yes. Because there's a
Okay.
second floor there where the house is a single story today.
And I see you've used the term same general area twice. Once on here and once in this petition. What does that mean, rather than in the exact same footprint?
That gets to Mr. Hilliard's question. If you look at the dotted lines, what's my map? What's north and south of those dotted lines respectively, that's why I said general, because it does expand there. As I noted in the summary, it's it's in the general area, but it is expanded, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hedersted?
As long as it's an extension, I have no problem.
I have no questions. Mr. Burke?
So the existing house has 4 bedrooms, and you'll have 3 in this new one? 4 now?
Thought it was...
3 are proposed, you are correct with that, with master bedroom down. You have these other plans there.
I have the septic plan, I believe.
Okay. Bear with us 1 second.
Existing 2-bedroom.
Must have been in the past.
I think it was a 4 at this time when they did the design work.
We're looking at an old septic plan, and it looks at that point that it was being described as 4 bedrooms total.
So it's going from 4
It's going to 3, yes. I'm not sure what's in there right now, but at one point it was.
Did you do the drawing on this?
I did the...
Not the
I did
architectural.
your plot plan.
Oh, just wondered what year the Corvette was.
The architect could come tonight, but I will ask him that.
Okay.
Wishful dreaming, I don't know.
No, I didn't have any other questions.
Mr. Campbell? Mr. Donahue?
No questions.
Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak either for or against this petition? I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So move.
Second.
Second, who is that, Mr. Donahue? Any further discussion on the board? Okay, I will entertain a motion in the case.
Oh, I thought you were,
Somebody.
it's the motion.
The board hereby approves, under case 2017-24, a special permit to remove a one-story portion of a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling and build a two-story addition, including a one-bay garage. It is pursuant to the code of Town of Harwich 325-54 as set forth in MGL 48, Chapter 6. Property is located at 5 Glen Rock Road, map 4, partial M6-5, in the RH1 zoning district. And in accordance as specified in the, and unfortunately, I never got a copy of the plot plan, so the plot plan dated, can somebody help me there?
July 25, 2017.
Plot plan,
Wait a minute,
David
wait a
and
minute,
Sheer
July-
Karun, dated
July 28th?
July 25, 2017.
Oh, no,
With a
okay.
revision of July 28th.
There's a revision?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
up
stamped
at
in.
the top, revised
Stamped in.
July
Yeah.
28, 2017. And in accordance with the proposed north elevation drawings A3 through a,
It's actually A1 through A6.
yeah, through A3, 4, 5, 6, and A1 and A2, with the proviso that there would be no external construction, nor any external landscaping during the period 30 June through 1 September 2017 and/or 2018.
If I could just clarify, no new landscaping?
New
As you did
landscaping.
before.
New
as opposed to-
landscaping.
Yes.
Okay, I gotta make that change. You're right, new landscaping.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Did we have a second on that?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't,
I second.
okay, sorry, Mr. Hilliard. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, granted.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
This is yours?
That is mine.
Okay, so,
I never got it.
oh, I see why A1 and A2 are at the back. Thank you. Oh, here you want, wait, this is for this one coming. These are for the last umpteen cases there. What's this case?
No comments on the next one?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so, it doesn't look, I'm looking at it now. Did you want to keep this, that original to go on the record? Thanks. When you're ready?
Okay,
Okay,
Mr.
case
Chairman.
number 2017-25.
Clerk. Sorry.
Robert M. Turner and Darlene Turner, through their agent, Attorney William Kroll, have applied for a special permit, or in the alternative of variance, to demolish and replace a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling. The application is pursuant to the code of the Town of Harwich, Section 325, Table 3, site coverage, as set forth in MGL Chapter 48, Section 6 and 10. The property is located at 8 Pine Lane, Assessors Map 1, parcel J1-15A in the RH1 zoning district. There are no departmental comments in the file.
And in this case, we will have voting Mr. Hilliard, Ms. Muller, Mr. Hederstet, Mr. Burke, and Mr. Donahue. Mr. Campbell and I will not be voting. And you may proceed when ready, Attorney Crowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney William Kroll for the petitioners, Robert and Darlene Turner. Bob is seated with me this evening, and Darlene is seated in the front row behind him. I submitted a copy of the assessors map with the petition. You can see this is down in the old Mill Point subdivision off of Lower County Road in West Harwich. And the petition is to demolish and replace the existing single-family dwelling at 8 Pine Lane. The plot plan by Moran Engineering shows you the proposed dwelling as well as the, the existing dwelling as well as the proposed dwelling, along with a proposed pool in the backyard surrounded by a patio. The new dwelling will be more conforming than the existing dwelling. The existing dwelling is non-conforming on both sidelines, northerly and southerly, and it is now going to be a little over 20 feet from both lot lines. So you can see from the grid that it's going from 18.6 to 20.2 and from 14.8 to 20.3. The existing let me just comment on the setback from Pine Lane will be more than 25 feet. It'll be 31.5, and the rear setback will be going from 54 feet to 52.6 feet, and the proposed pool will be 20 feet from the rear setback line as well. The building coverage remains under 30% at 19.3. The existing site coverage was 35.5, so it's a pre-existing non-conforming site coverage situation, and the petitioners are seeking to intensify that nonconformity to go to 45% with the new dwelling. You can see the new dwelling is not that much larger than the existing dwelling, and most of that increase in site coverage is the shell driveway on the front coming off of Pine Lane. Petitioners have submitted building plans to show the floor layout and the elevations, side, rear, and front of the dwelling. The certified plot plan indicates the building height will be 29.2. The denial letter from the building commissioner recites that the only relief needed would be a special permit concerning the intensification of the pre-existing non-conforming site coverage. So our argument is that the proposed dwelling would not constitute a substantial detriment to the neighborhood and would not be a substantial increase in noise, fumes, odors, traffic, congestion, or the like, and would ask that you grant the special permit for us this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Hilliard,
I have no questions.
Ms. Muller.
Do we have anything from the abutters, one way or the other? Nope, no questions.
Anything further? Ms. Muller?
No, thank you.
Mr. Hedersted?
Sorry.
Mr. Hedersted?
I'm looking.
Oh, okay.
Help me understand the site coverage issue. You're already exceeding the maximum.
Right?
So what you're saying is, no matter what you did or what you could do, you could do whatever you wished as long as you were over the existing. So what you could do is you could make it 60% if you wanted to.
With your blessing. It's not what we could do, anything we wish. It's what the board would decide would be would not be a substantial detriment to the neighborhood. If we went, it's all line drawing. Where do you draw the line as a board? When would too much site coverage constitute a substantial detriment to the neighborhood? And thus my comment that it's the increase in site coverage by about 9.5% is primarily the proposed shell driveway. Under the bylaw, driveways, regardless of material, constitute site coverage. So even if you have pea stone or shells, anything, you could have no driveway. We could have no driveway and just park on our front lawn, and that's not site coverage. But if we have any kind of surface material,
A swimming pool is not site coverage.
it is.
Oh, yeah.
That's in the calculation.
Yeah, it is.
That's why I said it's primarily the shell driveway.
And
But
that,
the pool is certainly part of the site coverage, and that's part of the 45%.
So you don't consider that a new,
It's not creating a new
setback,
nonconformity.
You don't consider that a new nonconformity?
It is not, because at 35.5%, we're in a pre-existing nonconformity. So we're, under the Gale case, we can intensify that, as long as we're not a substantial detriment to the neighborhood. It's consistent with the Gale case. As you know, the Dedrick case,
I know,
okay.
I've been through that, I understand all of that. I'm just concerned, it looks like you have really maximized this particular lot, and yet we don't have any comments. And I would assume it's also in an area where we're gonna have some congestion while this was going on, because you gotta get the pool, I mean, all of this stuff. This is a major effort.
Mr. Turner has his own building company, he's a very skilled builder, but I will say that I was here last winter in the same neighborhood for an abutter with a swimming pool that was, if I recall correctly, more of a site coverage issue and closer to the lot lines. And this board granted it unanimously with no objections by neighbors, no objections by the board, for a pool because the wife had severe arthritis and needed to use the swimming pool.
I
So
understand.
I don't see any,
You're
this is lesser.
intensifying, I understand the intensification.
Right, but
What
just-
I'm driving at is there's gonna be a lot of construction going on, so you're gonna accept the same problem, the same restrictions we had on the previous cases.
With the amendment that I want my name stricken from that, that restriction, because I don't want to be associated with my name associated with that, but
It's too late.
Well, it really came from Mr. Ryer.
You're the one who brought it up?
no way.
I actually brought it up.
Oh, Mr. Ryer brought it up.
Landscaping, yes.
I'll agree to an amendment of it from, to the Ryer amendment.
I'm
Ryer-
really
satisfied.
the-
I was pushing you just a bit. I
Yeah.
just didn't want to,
I'm used to it, Mr. Hedersted.
going from 35 to 45% is, you're cranking it, so. there's
If you
not
want
much
my
room
opinion,
left.
75% would be my cutoff, but
I understand.
Don't like to cut grass?
He likes, he wants to put a shell driveway in, I understand that. I have no further comment.
Okay, just on that other case that you referred to
Yes.
last year, I do remember it, and just, we didn't really, we're not that kind-hearted that we granted it because of the need for one of the...
I'm aware of that, Mr. Chairman, yes.
It met the legal requirements, and there was considerable discussion, both
Yes.
then and before we closed the hearing. Everybody, you guys had all left, but there was considerable angst among some people on that case. Just want to, you've already said it, I think, but the existing stone parking is in the calculations of site coverage. And you said The height is 29.2, but if it's on the plans, I can't read it.
It is at the bottom of the grid,
Okay.
all right? Go down under building height calculations under the grid on the face of the plan.
On the
Page,
elevation?
page 1 of the plan.
Yeah, it's here.
Oh, okay, I was looking on the
You're looking on the,
elevation plan. Okay,
yeah.
I see it, right there, perfect. I have nothing further. Mr. Burke?
Couple of questions. You're actually, if we look at the existing conditions, you're taking out a pool too. All right, you're also getting rid of a cesspool.
Yes.
So we got a couple of pluses here. We're gonna get rid of a cesspool, we're gonna get a modern septic system. There's already an existing pool and patio, which is now closer to a butters. It's now gonna be located really in the center. And even though I understand the calculation for site coverage, but really you're taking a pervious surface in the front. You have bituminous concrete in the front, correct?
That's correct.
That's going away, so now we're gonna have an impervious surface in the front. Even though it's bigger, it's impervious, which I see as a real plus on this. But the patio itself around the pool, I'm assuming, is pervious, however. That's probably a little deck or something.
Are we using the right term? Because impervious means,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
impervious.
Yes.
so the driveway is going from impervious to pervious.
Pervious, correct, sorry.
And the patio will be impervious.
Impervious,
Yeah.
okay. But but I mean, overall, I think that it really de-intensifies the site, really, and pulls it closer away from the boundary lines of both the pool. You look at that existing pool's right on the neighbor's boundary line now. Now it's gonna go into the center. I think this is a good plan.
You just want to get invited to the pool.
The pool party, right.
Well, I didn't see a Corvette in the garage in this one. You know, the last guy had a Corvette in the garage. I mean,
Mr. Campbell?
No questions.
Mr. Donahue?
No questions.
Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak either for or against this petition? I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So move.
Second.
Hearing's closed. I'll entertain a motion in the case, please.
Mr. Chairman, the board hereby approves under case 2017-25, a special permit to demolish and replace a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling. The application is pursuant to the Town of Harwich Code 325, Table 3. Site coverage is set forth in MGL Chapter 40A, Section 6. The property is located at Pine Lane, Map 1, Partial J1-15A in the RH1 zoning district, all in accordance with the Moore Engineering Associates plot plan dated 6/21/17. The septic system plan dated the same date.
The plan was revised, if I may, July 18th, 2017, so there were 2 dates.
Oh, revised 7/18.
Thank you.
Both of them revised 7/18. And Moore Engineering existing conditions plot plan dated 7/18/17. And elevation drawings A1 through, somebody help me here, A5.
A5, sorry,
A5.
A5, yes.
All dated, if I can get there here,
Looks like 6/5/2017.
Yes,
6/5/2017,
yes.
with the proviso that, because of the area, no construction will take place during a period 30 June through 1 September, and no new landscaping will be done during that same period, 2017 and/or 2018.
You just add no demolition to that, because they're taking this one down, taking the old one down.
No
Demolition during the same period.
demolition, I guess, if you no construction, I guess, no destruction, no construction. How's that?
I think what we've agreed on in the past is interior work can take place.
Yes.
Right. interior, I'm talking exterior construction
Right. And demolition, because that's
and demolition.
best.
You are correct, thank you.
I will entertain a second.
Second.
Mr. Donahue, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Special permit granted?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Heavy lifting tonight, Joe, huh?
Yeah.
25.
Get back into the swing of things here.
Good to be back.
The coverage calculation is so vague.
Yeah,
Kind of a wishy.
it is.
Sometimes just use building coverage. They don't get into the. You all set?
Tiger?
Oh, okay.
That's the one take.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, okay. Okay, case number 2017-26, Stephen P. Ford and Patricia W. Ford, through their agent, Attorney Michael Ford, have applied for a special permit or, in the alternative, a variance to demolish and replace a non-conforming detached garage. The application is pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich, section 325-54A2, as set forth in MGL chapter 40A, sections 6 and 10. Property is located at 7 South Street, assessors map 14, parcel N4, in the CV and RM zoning district. There is one comment from the Historic District Historical Commission. At the August 16, 2017 meeting of the Harwich District Historical Commission, the HDHC determined, based on the appearance of the garage located at 7 South Street, Harwich, Mass., that the structure is less than 100 years old, and voted to notify the Harwich Zoning Board of Appeals that a notice of intent is not required for this structure. That's the record.
Okay, voting on this case will be Mr. Hilliard, Ms. Muller, Mr. Hedersted, Mr. Burke, and Mr. Donahue. Mr. Campbell and I will not vote. Attorney Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Attorney Mike Ford, representing Patsy and Stephen Ford, the petitioners here. So we were before the board on a proposed garage project at your July meeting, and we had, at that point, they had proposed to remove this deteriorated garage and move it back on the property. It currently is non-conforming in terms of the side yard to the south setback at 8.6 feet, but it was not non-conforming as to the rear yard, and the board indicated that their customary application of the Gale case was that you could not create a new nonconformity, and the board members felt that moving the garage back to be 10 feet off the rear yard line was not within the purview of the Gale case, and in considering whether the variance conditions exist, at least a couple members felt there were no variance conditions, and so the board graciously allowed us to withdraw after that hearing. So what's changed? The garage has been reduced in size. It was 22 by 22, the proposed garage, to now 20 by 20. And if you look at the site plan, the revised site plan, you'll see that it almost fits right over the existing building now. There's a piece of the existing building towards the street that we're not overlaying, and there's a little triangular section in the rear that we are expanding a little bit to the rear, but within the setback. We're holding the 20-foot rear yard setback now, so there's no new encroachment into any, excuse me, any side yard or rear yard setback. The garage being a little smaller and given its location vis-a-vis the house, not being able to move back, it will probably now be a one-car garage, but they understand that. The board members last time felt, with respect to the variance, as I indicated, that there was no basis for a variance to have a new encroachment into that rear yard. We hope that, given the redesign, that we're staying exactly at the same location on the side yard to the south, 8.6 feet, and complying in all of the respects, and putting up a structure that is virtually identical in terms of square footage, that the board will see that they could handle this petition now as a special permit. And so we would encourage you in the first instance to look at it as a special permit. As the clerk has read, since we were here, we also went to the Historic Commission and provided to them evidence that they thought was sufficient that they were not dealing with an historic structure. So that's the changes in the plan, and Mr. Chairman, we'd ask that it be considered as a special permit in the first instance.
Okay, I just will point out to the board that under 32554 A7, that any non-conforming structure other than a single or two-family residential structure requires a variance for an addition, extension, alteration. So that's under the bylaw. So with that, Mr. Hilliard.
Is your intention to remove the garage in its entirety right to the foundation?
The foundation consists of a series of cement blocks that this sits on, and given the deteriorated state, they've been advised that they really can't save any portion of the building. I don't know if you had a chance to go to the site, but it unfortunately is in an advanced state of deterioration.
Is there any, on the way the land is laid out in the rear, is it relatively level? It looked it from what I could see of it, but
It is.
Can I see what you're looking at?
It is. It's a uniquely shaped parcel, obviously, given the dogleg that heads to the north. And as I pointed out to the board the last time we were here, when they replaced the existing single-family home, which was non-conforming in terms of the front yard setback and other setbacks, they've brought the house into complete compliance with the bylaw in all respects.
is it your intent to use the garage to house cars?
It is. They're hopeful to be able to get one car in there.
So moving it, say, more to the north, to bring it into conformity with the side yard, it's not a practical.
Well, it really isn't, because you'd have to move it 20, to make 20 feet, and you wouldn't be able to get a car in there. It'd be sitting up next to the house. So there are shape configurations there that limit having any garage, frankly, that you can get a car in.
Are there requirements for structures to be a certain, if you know, certain distance away from septic systems?
There are, at least 10 feet.
Okay, so you couldn't move it to the north without imposing on that 10 feet on the new septic system?
That's correct. We've got it just about 10 feet off there now. I think it's 10 and a half.
And you can't move it back?
No, the board was pretty clear last time that they did not see variance conditions to move it into that rear yard.
You can't move it forward, you can't move it west, because the house is basically
Right.
there. Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Ms. Muller.
Yeah, Mr. Ford, I see on the zoning compliance table, it says.
Yes.
Side setback to the south, 8.6, existing 8.6, proposed 8.6.
That's correct.
But then the comparable calculations for the frontage, the front setback and the side setback north, there's a plus or minus, as if that's not a certain thing. What makes it plus or minus? 91 feet, 85.6 feet, 57.9 feet.
I'm not sure. I mean, I didn't stamp the plan. Mr. Sholomini, the registered land surveyor, did. But oftentimes, my experience in reading plans is that where something is not right on a setback, that it's like those are. Those are more than compliant in every case, that they put a plus or minus. And where you're either non-conforming or right on a setback, then they bore right in to make sure that they can represent to the board that they meet the requirement.
I don't think the frontage setback is within. It's 91 feet plus or minus versus 150. Okay, Mr. Ryer, a question for you. You're pointing out that in your interpretation, a variance is what would be required in this case?
That's what the bylaw calls for.
Okay, so does this bring us right back to the question of hardship that we discussed last month?
Well, I appreciate the chairman's opinion. I also believe that the board has some discretion with an accessory residential dwelling, which this is under the bylaw, to handle this as a special permit where no new nonconformities are being created. The nonconformity in terms of the side yard to the south is 8.6 feet. Now, certainly if this board believes that they can't apply Gale to anything other than a dwelling, a single or two-family, and that's what you've been doing, then I appreciate where the chairman's comment is. And you are reading the bylaw correctly. I'm simply asking the board to take a broader look under Chapter 48, Section 6, and the Gale case.
Which we have treated Gale consistently as applying only to single and two-family houses, this board.
Okay? And anytime there's an alteration of a non-conforming accessory residential structure, if the alterations don't comply with the bylaw 100%, then you've always required a variance?
We have been, and not granting.
I saw
to any.
cases that you've granted where you've granted special permits.
Well, I don't remember what they are, so I guess I'm at a loss to counter that.
But to respond to you, Mrs. Muller, if in fact you needed to get to the variance, I think there is a clear hardship here where we've got a building that can't be altered. It really has to come down. And I think the major concern I heard from the two members who were opposed to the variance last time was that we were creating a whole new nonconformity. We were throwing this thing, making a larger structure so we could have a two-car garage, moving it back so we could access it clearly, and creating a whole new nonconformity. And so what we've tried to do is listen to those comments and redesign it, make it smaller, and bring it back and put it really over the footprint of the existing building.
No more questions?
Mr. Hedersted.
I understand the concern. You have changed the garage, the structure to meet and not create any new nonconformity. You again, however, as the chairman has pointed out, run afoul of pre-existing nonconforming dwelling other than a single-family or two-family dwelling. However, the way this thing reads is may be altered or extended by right if the building official determines that it meets the following. The proposed extension will conform to current setbacks, coverage for the zoning district in which an existing structure in addition is located, and the nonconformance concerns the size of the lot in question and/or the frontage of said lot and/or an encroachment of existing structure. All other nonconformings will require a variance. What you're trying to say is...
What section is that, please?
54A7, 325, 54A7.
Thank you.
I think it
Seven,
gives us, the way I read it, it gives us the leeway as the building officials, I guess in this particular case, the board, feels that you have not altered it to such an extent, it's a pre-existing non-conforming, and you have not altered it to the extent where it makes a new nonconformity. And therefore, I think with looking at this thing, it would be my interpretation that we do have the power to grant this as a special permit. However, if it was not non-conform, if it was more non-conforming, then we could not. That's the way I read it. It already exists. You have to destroy it, I assume, because it's so far gone that it's useless the way it is.
You're correct.
So you're essentially building it in the same footprint.
Right.
You may be making it a little higher, but just the same footprint, essentially. And I don't think that law, that is intended to not allow this to happen. But that's my own personal opinion, and I think it gives us the freeway or the leeway to do it. But I will listen to the rest of the board members.
Yeah, I would just point out that section you read, it says the proposed addition will conform to the current setback coverage, which it does not.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. It's 8.6 on the side when 20 foot is
Right.
required.
No, it's 8.6. It's always been that way. It's already been non-conforming.
It doesn't matter. What this applies to is the new addition. Their new addition will be 8.6. It doesn't matter that the existing is 8.6.
I think it does.
Okay. I guess my problem, the one I had the last time, is you folks came for a special permit. You didn't choose to address the garage then. I think you need a variance. Now, when it's all up and designed, you're saying you've got a problem citing this thing. And you're asking for a variance, and I don't think that's the basis for a variance. This garage issue should have been dealt with as part of the rebuilding of the entire site, and then handled as a special permit. And maybe you would have, designed it differently or put the septic somewhere else, I don't know. But I do object to you getting a special permit, and now after the fact, after you're constructed, you say, this is the only place we can cite the garage, please give us a variance. I just have a problem with that. Now, I'm not gonna vote in the case.
No, I appreciate,
My
but
comments.
I certainly value your opinion, Mr. Chairman. You indicated that we got a special permit. We haven't got any special permit. We've applied for a special permit, or alternatively for a variance. There's no existing special permit on this site.
This building conforms. They didn't have a special permit.
We didn't have a
When you-
special permit on this house.
It's an undersized lot, how could it conform?
It's an undersized lot, and what was there was non-conforming,
Yes.
and what
They
was
could
built
under that section.
is conforming. And it was built as a matter of right. There was no special permit. We didn't try and go in and get a special permit and then come back and say, well, now we need another special permit because we got another accessory
Why did
building.
they not need it for new, isn't this new construction?
Yes.
Why did they not need a special permit? I mean, the way I read the bylaw, if you're under 40,000 square feet and you're going to,
They got a building permit.
yeah, you got a building permit, but I think you.
It was non-conforming in terms of the front yard,
Right,
and the
but
building
it's non-
commissioners,
Well, the lot's non-conforming.
That's
So
right.
you needed a special permit. Now, you didn't get one, whoever, I don't know why, but it should have been addressed. They should have gotten a special permit and come before this board. But anyway, that's.
well, the
my
building
2
inspector's
cents.
opinion, was the prior building inspector,
Well, right.
was that provided that you didn't create any non-conforming setbacks, lot coverage, or site coverage, that you could build that house as a matter of right.
Within the last couple months.
Okay, well, unfortunately, the building inspector is A, gone and B, incorrect, but it's built, so.
Well, I'm not sure that he's incorrect, but that's okay.
Well, I mean, it's a non-conforming lot.
Yeah, and you're suggesting that the bylaw requires on every non-conforming lot, if you build a conforming house,
That's
that
the
you
way
need a
we've
special permit?
interpreted it, yeah.
I think the petition that you just had before you, out in Old Mill Point, as I was listening to it, that was a non-conforming lot The only reason they came to you was the site coverage, because they took a new house and made it meet all of the requirements. They didn't come to you for the house. There was no special permit required to build that house. So had they not sought to exceed the 35% site coverage, they wouldn't have been here for any reason. The bylaw doesn't require in Harwich that you have a non-conforming lot, that every single new house on a non-conforming lot requires a special permit. I'm not sure how you're
Mr.
reading
Chairman,
that.
if I might,
I'm sorry.
if I might
Attorney Crowell?
offer a
Yes.
comment,
Yes.
since the prior petition was mentioned as well, but 325-54-4, okay, says that you can demolish by right a pre-existing non-conforming single-family or two-family structure, provided two things: that the proposed new construction will conform to current setbacks, which this does, and coverage, which this does, and this is the disclaimer, the out. It says the nonconformance concerns the size of the lot in question and/or the frontage of the lot. That's why you don't need a special permit.
Okay, I stand corrected. I see what you're, I guess I was reading that a different way. Thank you.
So I just want to dispel the notion, Mr. Chairman, that you espouse, that somehow we got a special permit, left this building out, and now come back in for a second special permit.
Okay,
We didn't do that, and there was no intention to do that.
No, I appreciate that, and I'm sorry, I misread that. Mr. Burke?
Well, as you may recall, the last time around, I was not troubled with the variance. I'm even less troubled with this.
Okay.
I guess, first of all, I think the variance is the appropriate relief here. It takes away any interpretation issue about Gale and our bylaw if a variance were granted. And I think this is a good case for why we have variances. This is an extremely small dimensional issue in terms of replacing an existing building with a building that's gonna be the same distance. You know, when we talk about hardship, the three items, it's either gotta be shape, topography, or soil conditions. And you have a number of things here. You have an unusual shape, but it's not just the shape of the lot. And actually, the land doesn't say shape of the lot. The law doesn't say shape of lot, it's the shape of the land.
Or buildings.
Here's what I was gonna get at.
Right.
Buildings, and that's the thing we tend to get away from, is the fact that the shape and the location of these buildings are a consideration into that whole shape dynamic of when we have hardship. And we have a totally conforming building and a brand-new septic system that have essentially hemmed in this existing building. And the degree of hardship one has to demonstrate for a relatively minor dimensional variance is usually not considered to be as great for some use variance or some major departure from the bylaw. Since this building is already there, it's a reasonable use of the property, so I don't think it derogates from the intent of the bylaw that someone have a single-family home there. It certainly doesn't present any health or safety issue, and I think that it is a hardship to the owner to the extent that he can't make a reasonable use of what he's got here, because otherwise this thing's gotta come down. I mean, I've looked at the condition of this thing. I don't know why it's still standing. It's terrible. This is a reasonable proposal, and I think a case in which the board can justify a variance for this structure as proposed, my view.
Mr. Campbell?
Well, I was pleased to hear the Historical District found that the building, which I thought was built around 1915, was younger than that. We'll see.
You remember it.
Right. But,
Mr. Donahue?
I have no questions.
but if I were voting, I'd vote for it.
I'd like to go back into just a minute and comment on it. That's what I was trying to get at. I think what my colleague is saying is that, you know, even though the existing dwelling might have forced this garage to be in a place where it's very difficult to get at now, but they've gone the extra mile, and it's a hardship just to make it, put it where it was. All it is essentially rebuilding what's already existing. And if you want to call it a variance because of that kind of hardship, I don't have a problem with that. Because if he was putting this in new, starting from scratch, I'd go along, I'd say that was, forget it. There's no hardship, for us to start, because everybody needs a garage. We've heard that before. But in this particular case, it's already there. And what they're trying to do is make it where we didn't allow it last time. They now come back and it fits within the existing setbacks, and they're no longer creating a new setback or a new nonconformity. They've gone the extra length of putting it back in the position that it was. And you know what? They could just turn around and say, I'm not gonna destroy it. What I'll do is I'll just replace it board for board, and it won't be more than 50%, et cetera, et cetera. We can go, forget it. That's not gonna happen. So, in my estimation, I think they've done what we asked them to do. And a variance requires a hardship, and I believe that one exists because of the way this land is shaped, and it leaves, and they got a new septic system, et cetera. There's no way to do anything else but replace this, almost foot by foot. So I would strongly recommend the board consider a variance under the hardship requirement for the lot size or the lot shape, whichever way it is.
Mr. Hilliard? Oh,
I have a question. Next door to me, at 49 Pleasant Street, they tore down and put in a new garage and came before this board. Now, what was the difference between approving that and approving this garage?
my recollection is that was a special permit case. No? I don't remember.
No, they came in for a special
I
permit, and
thought
we
it was
denied
special
it.
permit. but-
We denied the whole thing.
No, I don't think we denied it. We allowed it.
I don't remember, I
We did
remember
allow
the
it,
case,
and
but
it's
I
been
don't
built.
remember
I
what.
don't,
Yeah, it's been built.
yeah, well, no, we did not deny
It's
it.
there.
No, we granted them some relief, but I don't remember
Was a
what.
variance for 49 Pleasant Street and also 22 Kevin.
Maybe it was a minor dimensional variance that we granted. And we have done those in the past.
Well, I'd
Mr.
suggest
Hilliard.
if you have, this is a minor one as well, only because this, as the
Well-
members have been pointing out, is already substantially in the spot where we're trying to put it now that we've reduced it in size and tried to overlay the existing building.
Mr. Hilliard?
I think Mr. Burke has made a very cogent argument for a variance based on all of the factors of this particular building and even the way the land is shaped. I, for one, think there is a good argument for it, and I would cast my vote in favor if that were the motion. One question, I don't know the answer to this, but if we had a storm and the building blew down or blew off the site, what would be the owner's manner of dealing with that? What would be the owner's right if it burned down or flew down, which is more than likely to happen to it soon?
I think we would have a right within a year to rebuild it.
And I think you do too. Something to that extent.
Yeah.
So there is a remedy. I'm not suggesting you do anything, but there is a remedy for this if it's no fault of your own, which is likely to happen. And so you're coming here asking us to do something in advance of that happening.
Well, yes, you're correct. And the other thing is, as one member observed, I mean, we could take, Patsy and Stephen could take it off board by board and try and put it back together, but we wanted to be right up front and suggest to you that, they want to replace the building. And so, rather than participate in a sham, we figured we'd come right out and lay the facts out.
It'd be a major eyesore if you did it that way.
Yeah.
Based upon
Ms.
the
Muller.
fact that there's no non-conformity here, which was our big issue before, I think we're more than in our right position to grant this as a variance.
Ms. Muller?
I was opposed to the two-car garage. I'm trying to find a way to approve the one-car garage. Mr. Burke, could you repeat your point about the shape of the land or the shape of the structure?
Yeah, and you know, it's shape, topography, soil conditions. Those are we have to have our
Right.
variance connected to that. The shape one is not only the shape of the land, but also the shape and location of structures.
Right.
All right? So it's not just that. In this particular case, we have structures both above ground and below ground here that impact the location of where someone can utilize this garage. Obviously, the existing dwelling and a building in which completely conforms to the bylaw. It's not there under any relief. And then we have the structure of the septic system that also hems it in. So there is virtually no wiggle room to move this thing really any substantial amount, maybe a foot or two one way or the other. But I think that the positioning that's suggested here is probably the most ideal because it maintains that 8.6 distance, that it doesn't exacerbate the current nonconformity, and it probably provides a safer angle for automobiles to drive into that building as opposed to the angle it has now. In other words, the angle doesn't, you can see they're trying to move this angle a little bit so a car can,
Right.
you know, drive in there a little.
The-
Otherwise, you gotta come close to that house
Exactly, and the other thing
to
I'd,
get your car in.
I'd add to
Not a
your,
good thing from a safety standpoint.
right, the other thing I'd add to your analysis is that if we move it to the north to try and make it more conforming as to the southerly side yard setback, we run afoul of the setback from the leaching field.
That's what I was,
And if you took it farther up, the dog leg, you can't get any structure in there because you gotta have 20 feet from either side. We'd be creating new nonconformities.
This
So
is
we got a problem in terms of the shape of the lot and problem in terms of the shape of the building,
right.
both of which I'd
So
suggest you could make a
You can
finding
have a perfectly
on.
square lot, but if you've got buildings that affect that, that's part of the shape formula, part of the shape considerations. A lot of case law on it. And,
I don't see the word location in MGL 10, but I'm trying to find a way to say yes to this, because
it's mostly,
it's obviously logical and.
the part about the part about the structures is all as a matter of case law,
Okay.
all right? I don't think you're gonna literally find well, it says, yeah, wait a minute, no.
Well, you will
It does
find
say-
in 48,
it does say
section 10.
48.
It
It
does,
says-
40
it says
section
structures.
10 does say structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I missed that
Doesn't
my.
say location.
No,
Oh,
but
it says
it,
structure, though.
Structure, it doesn't say
there are
location.
3 words
Structure.
there that come before it, which is soil conditions, which can't apply to the building, topography, which can't apply to the building, or shape of the land or structures located thereon.
structures.
It's got to be the shape, and in part, shape in this instance is location. So that's the nexus that I've seen a board find that on previously.
I think, given the, you know, you have to balance, too, the amount of relief being sought versus the hardship, too.
Right.
And you know, someone shouldn't be able to have to come in here and prove that, you know, I can't use this house if I don't have this garage. We don't need that level of hardship to,
Right.
anyway, I'm all right with it.
Yeah, and I have to say, I'm not voting, but in light of the fact that I now realize they didn't need a site permit, I'm sorry, a special permit, so they're not, you know, coming back twice, I think Mr. Burke's argument is pretty persuasive, and if I were voting, I would be able to vote for the variance. And I don't say that lightly, because I don't vote
I
for too
appreciate that,
many of
Mr.
them.
Chairman.
Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on this case, for or against? Yes, Attorney Crowley.
If I may, speaking as a taxpayer, aside from the fact that I played several years of soccer, basketball, and baseball with Attorney Ford at Harwich High School, and was best buddies with Stephen Ford growing up, and still am good buddies with him, and served 10 years on the Brooks Library Board of Trustees with his wife Patsy Ford. Aside from that, I have some historical perspective that I can give the board that when Jeffrey Larson was the building commissioner for 4 or 5 years, his interpretation of the section that the chairman recited was that a detached garage was part of a single-family residential structure. and he saw his way to permit those detached garage as special permits. And I did obtain some special permits in the past. And Tom Ogborn, who was a member of this board for 10 years or so, consistently said a garage is a reasonable use of your property, as Mr. Burke stated earlier. But if that's not enough, and you get to the variance argument, I think this is certainly a case where the board can exercise its discretion and cut the petitioners some slack. But especially where, if you're the owners of the property, if you're Mr. and Mrs. Ford, what are you supposed to do now? You didn't need any relief from this board to build your house, which conforms with the setbacks. Are you supposed to let that garage, which has holes in the roof and is about to blow over, as Mr. Hilliard said, you're supposed to have a brand-new house? If I was a neighbor at the Augustus Snow House, I would be very upset that they would have to keep that garage in its present condition. They're seeking to just put a new garage on top of the old footprint. It seems to me that from a fairness standpoint and a reasonableness standpoint, that should be allowed by this board. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further comment? I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, hearing's closed. I'll entertain a motion on the case, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board grant a variance to the petitioner for the construction of the garage as presented on the plans submitted with the application, and in so doing find that there is a substantial detriment to the petitioner by way of a literal enforcement of the bylaw, and that a hardship exists due to the shape of the lot and the location of the structures on it, that we may do so without derogating from the intent of the bylaw, and that the granting of the permit will not cause any detriment to the health or safety of the public. And I so move.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Variance granted.
Appreciate your consideration, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see, we've got a couple more things on the agenda, right?
Thank you. Well, I misinterpreted. I always thought if it was an undersized lot, they had to come to us. but-
In most towns, your interpretation is correct. This bylaw happens to have a unique section in it
Okay.
that is different from most towns. Now, if I'm in Natick, there's no such provision like that. You would have to get a special permit to build a conforming house on a non-conforming lot. I did it Monday night.
Okay, and I missed that yeah.
But
our bylaw.
that's the norm. It's because of that section of this bylaw.
suck it up, we're gonna finish the trip.
He's right, I'd forgotten all about
Thank God for trip insurance.
Obviously, I missed it.
it. I knew, I'd read
Yeah.
that before, yeah, but you know
just
what? I
didn't
never
pay
think
any
of it
attention
because
to
it's
it.
the
No.
only, it's the only bylaw I've ever run into that has that provision.
This one?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
You can't build a house on a
Continued.
Yeah, in
non-conforming.
most towns, for instance, I just had one Monday
ridiculous.
Monday night, 40,000 square foot zone, all right? The lot had 38,000 square feet of land, so it's 200 feet short. It has a non-conforming building, they wanna take down and
I've
build
been
a
here long enough to
completely
get one of
conforming
these.
building on it. Needs a special
Maybe
permit because
long
of the
enough,
lack.
but not off
If the town set the lot up
They have a book like
and the town approves the lot structures like that to put a 20,000, a 39,000 square foot lot in where 40,000 square feet required, and they said, okay, this is, you gotta set this up, that's, and now you gotta get a special permit, forget it. That's bull. That's bull.
Okay, we need to approve some meeting minutes from the meeting of Wednesday, July 26th. Dean had made 2 comments, which Shayla had incorporated. I made one further change. It said Mr. Hedersted would not vote what was it? I
Would
wrote,
not be involved in the case,
not be involved in a vote, and I
not
wrote
just.
That's
in
right.
the
yeah.
case. You're gonna be not involved with the case,
Not involved with the case
not
or
sitting
vote,
on it.
yeah.
So with that,
Thank you.
minor comment, did anybody else have any comments on that, on the July 26th minutes?
I thought they were
Okay.
well done.
I'll take, yes, very well done. I'll take a motion to approve them.
So move.
Second.
With the changes.
All in favor?
Aye.
August 15th, 2017 meeting. Did anyone have any comments on those minutes
I just sent those out.
You guys got 'em?
today?
Yeah.
Did everybody get a chance to?
Oh, I
read them?
saw them, yeah. I didn't have any comments.
They look fine to me. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that those minutes be approved on the
Second.
August 15th.
Second for Mr. Donahue. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, approved. I got a notice from somebody in the town, I don't remember who now. The capital budget is coming up, and they've got all kinds of forms. We've only requested money once since I've been here, and that was for those books, which I guess they're still maintained by Ray, I guess. I don't know if he keeps the updated service. But does anybody see any need for a request for money? I don't see anything that we need.
Matching t-shirts?
Uniforms?
I don't, I mean, the only thing we've ever gotten was those books, so I guess they're probably handled somehow, the updates.
You have some days to think about it, so
Yeah.
you have some suggestions.
If anybody has an idea, let me know, but I don't think we need anything. The other thing, I have been notified, I've got to go to the selectmen's meeting on December 5th to give them the annual update where, we just tell them what we've done over the year, what cases how many variants we've granted, special permits, that type of thing. So if anybody has any input they want to give to the selectmen, let me know, and I'll present it on December 5th. And I have asked our liaison, Larry Ballantyne, to put Jim's appointment on the next agenda as a regular member, and to help us get one more associate member.
That's
So-
when I get my book.
So, does anyone have any other business?
I do, what I mentioned to you earlier today, there is a member of the town who is in a rehab unit and cannot come home until they will not dismiss him unless he has a handicap accessible bathroom, because he doesn't have one on the he doesn't have one on the first floor, it's only on the second floor. So they came into the commissioner to see if they could expedite putting an addition on. The addition will require a special permit, however. So I asked Mr. Ryer if we could get his plan in tomorrow before I advertise what is currently on the agenda. If we could add that onto the agenda and try to squeeze everything in fairly quickly in terms of the paperwork. We just need an approval, because we don't, usually, it was last week that everybody had to have their applications in. Those dates are artificial so that I have time to work on them. So I'm just making sure that the board doesn't disapprove if we have a late arrival.
So this would show up in September,
Yes.
Shelley?
How many cases we get this next month?
3, this would be the 4th.
See any problem?
I don't have any problem.
I have
Does
no
anybody
problem.
have a problem?
I may not be here, I don't know yet.
Okay, why don't we just have a motion, though, that we accept this case?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just for the record.
So we're accepting the late submission.
Yes, in this instance.
I mean, you still have time to advertise and everything else. So
Well, if he
Right.
gets it into me tomorrow, I can advertise it with the
Yeah.
Chronicle. The problem is if he gets it in later than that, I have to go to the Cape Cod Times, and that raises the
that's
price.
expensive.
Well, if
So
we-
that's something that we could ask money for. Let me just point that out, that the times that we need the Cape Cod Times, it's significantly more money. If we had a little leeway to use it, because apparently we've used up the building department's budget for advertisement.
I would entertain a motion that in this case, if the applicant does not submit the paperwork tomorrow and we have to advertise in the Cape Cod Times, we impose a special fee to cover that cost,
That was my next
paid
question.
by the applicant.
That they said that they would be willing to do that if that were the case.
I would, well, I'll just make that motion.
Okay.
Somebody
That seconded.
Second it, all in favor?
Aye.
I don't want to go back to the town, this would be the applicant's responsibility, I feel.
Got it.
And we
And
do
they
have
had
the,
said-
we do have the right to
Okay.
assess fees under the bylaw.
I'm thinking airfares
I'm sorry?
in the budget, too, but.
Yeah, what do we
I
need?
don't wanna go there now.
Cocktail party.
For strategic planning retreat.
Okay, I guess the last item today, I came over to Shayla's and we stamped in everything, all the plans, the proposed
I want to pop a bottle of
restrictive
champagne.
covenants,
Anybody
everything
else?
on Habitat, and signed the two decisions. Did it go
They
down
went down
to
today.
Anita?
They did. Now, I noted, I did not understand, maybe Mr. Burke knows this, or you do, what is the appeal period for a 40B case? It's not the regular.
I don't,
However, the attorney put on that it would not be released until September 20th. It had to sit in the clerk's office before it could be released back for
40
stamping
days?
in.
Yeah. It couldn't be released from where?
Well, she grabbed me and she said, there's definitely something on here that says
That
I
must be
can't.
the appeal period. The appeal
Yeah.
period
Yeah.
only ends when the clerk only signs at the end of the appeal period.
Right, but
Well, the appeal period
doesn't
starts
fit.
with filing with the clerk.
Filing with the clerk.
Clerk, yeah.
Yeah,
So have you filed with the
Yes.
clerk? You have, okay.
yes.
All right.
So there is an appeal period. That is the statutory
Yeah.
40 days?
I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know.
20 days, I don't know
20
why it's
days,
different
yeah.
from 40 days.
Well, it's 20, but you see, the appeal can be to the Housing Appeals Committee.
Right.
So it's a different appeal.
That's only by the applicant.
Right.
The applicant's not going to appeal, it's really the appeal to the
So
Superior
if you
Court.
Right.
got an interested party, if the neighbors want to appeal, they have to go to Superior Court.
Superior
Right.
Court.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Second, all in favor?
Good to go.
Aye. Thanks all, we'll see you next month.
If anybody saw
You
the
maybe.
article in the Chronicle about the sand pit